Welcome to Ask a Lawyer with the attorneys at Hepworth Holzer, life-changing law in Boise, Idaho. Today, it's John Edwards. John Edwards has worked in personal injury litigation for 25 plus years, first representing insurers in injury claims, then representing injured citizens. John answers your questions about the law and how it affects you.
What car insurance coverage should I buy?
Well, Steve, if you're an adult and you have the ability to pay for it, you should get all the coverage you can get. When you're buying insurance, you're protecting you and your family. By law, you're required to carry, depending on the state, in Idaho, $25,000 that cover the people you run over. The balance of the coverages that you buy, you're buying to protect you and your family. And you should buy everything you can afford. Even if it's a little more than you can afford. Obviously, you want to have liability coverage that the law requires or some higher amount to protect your assets in the event you harm somebody. You certainly want to buy some level of medical payments coverage. That's a coverage that pays the medical expenses of the people who are in your car if your car is involved in a collision and someone needs medical treatment. It doesn't pay pain and suffering, but it does pay medical bills, and that's important coverage to have. One thing to consider is if you're a soccer mom and you're calling a lot of other kids, some of those kids may not have health insurance or might not have very much. And so you might want to carry a little higher medical payments coverage. It typically comes in denominations of $1,000, $2,000, $5,000, $10,000, or even $25,000. And certainly carrying some of that to cover people injured in your vehicle without regard to fault. I just think it's incredibly important that people carry uninsured motorist coverage. That's a coverage that protects the people in your car if you are injured through the fault of someone who is not insured. If you think about it, the people who are probably most likely to cause an accident are irresponsible people. Irresponsible people are going to be the same people who don't have insurance. So you want to carry as much uninsured motorist coverage as you can. Additionally, you want to have a coverage called underinsured motor vehicle coverage. That's a coverage that says, listen, if our car is run over or in a collision with the fault of someone who doesn't have enough insurance, I'm buying extra coverage so that I know that people in my car have sufficient insurance. Typically, you want to buy underinsured motorist coverage of at least $100,000. While that sounds like a lot of money, if you've had a significant injury in any hospital stay at all, $100,000 does not go very far. The underinsured coverage, again, is over the top of the coverage that the other driver has. Again, the least responsible drivers are the ones who carry the smallest amount of insurance, typically because there's a reason they can't afford it. So if you run over by somebody who only has $25,000 in coverage and doesn't have a lot of assets outside of that, which would be why they have $25,000 in coverage, you need extra insurance to cover the people in your car, your wife, your spouse, your family, and your friends. So that's an important coverage. You also probably should get collision coverage that provides if the people who run you over don't have sufficient insurance or insurance at all, it'll pay for the repair or replacement of your vehicle. Those are the important coverages.
Let's talk about a scenario here, John. I let a buddy of mine borrow my car and he gets in an accident. What happens there?
He is an insured under your policy. So the insurance acts the same as if you were driving the vehicle. So the coverage on your automobile is actually on the automobile. And as long as he is driving the vehicle with permission, then he is covered to the same extent you would have been if you were driving the vehicle. So all those coverages we talked about would inure to him and to the people traveling with him in that car. Now, if he had stolen your car and he was not using the car with permission, then he would not be covered, but you would also not be liable.
What if I get in an accident and I only have liability? What happens then?
Well, you're in trouble. I would tell anyone who asks to not buy just liability. Now, for some people, that's simply all they can afford. They're on a tight budget. That's all there is. But the liability coverage does not protect you and does not protect the people, for the most part, riding in your car. It only protects the people that you run into or cause the accident against. The exception to that is if the wreck is your fault and you're driving, then your liability insurance could inure to the benefit of the people riding in your car, as they would be victims of your negligence. But if you only have liability and you're in a wreck and it's the other side's fault and they have no insurance or limited insurance, you're really going to be stuck with what little coverage or no coverage that they have. And you and the people that you care about riding in your car are not going to be fully protected.
How about my medical bills? Well, what do I do there?
Well, because you did not buy medical payments coverage, you don't have access to that coverage. Hopefully you have health insurance, and you could certainly run your medical bills through your health insurer. But if you have no health insurance and you have no medical payments coverage, you're going to have hospitals and doctors knocking at your door through collection agencies.
Thanks for listening to Ask a Lawyer with the attorneys at Hepworth Holzer, life-changing law in Boise, Idaho. Join us next time as they answer your questions about the law and how it affects you. They can be reached at 208-343-7510 or hepworthholzer.com.